Hello and welcome to the SAP online track. We're super excited to be presenting to you today. We, that is Katja Zoch over in Waldorf, Germany, and myself coming to you from the Santa Cruz Mountains in beautiful sunny California.
We are the Chief Product Owners for SAP Fiori Elements and SAP Fiori Tools. And we want to show you today how our products have evolved over the last month and what are the latest features we will release to you soon.
Okay, talking about all the new developments, we are product owners and we're going to be showing you things that we have pulled out of the master branch this morning. So a lot of the things that you'll be seeing today are not yet released. So please keep in mind that if we make promises on any features that will be coming in the future, we didn't mean to. So all of this is actually covered by this disclaimer. All forward-looking statements are really just plans and may change without notice. But before we talk about all the stuff that's coming in the future, let's talk a little bit about the history and where this all started out. I still remember back in 2013 when SAP was proudly presenting the change in SAP's UX paradigm, and the first Fiori apps were presented. We had 25 apps at the time, and we were incredibly proud of the accomplishment and how this would change the user experience for SAP for years and years to come. Now, of course, once we started to have these first 25 apps out in the market, we got feedback, and of course, the UX had to improve. It also had to keep up with new developments. So in 2016, SAP introduced SAP Fiori 2.0. And we found out that the first 25 apps, which were handcrafted and really bespoke apps, had to be redone and reworked in order to meet the new design requirements. And that was the moment when we realized that as the Fiori design language is evolving, so SAP needed a framework to actually make sure that we would be able to deliver a consistent quality product that would be forward compatible. So we set out and created SAP Fiori Elements. Now, even today, Fiori Elements is still centered around those three main pillars that you need in designing enterprise-class Fiori applications. The first one of those is development efficiency. So we try to make sure that developers can focus on the complex business logic and are not sidetracked with a lot of work that goes into developing front-end applications. We also would like to provide you a consistent user experience so that your end users feel right at home in the apps that they're provided with. And of course, we want to make sure that the enterprise-ready features that are expected nowadays are provided out of the box by the framework. So things like internationalization. But let's talk a little bit more about these things in detail. When we decided to create a solution that provides developer efficiency, the entire idea is that we want to drive down cost. And of course, to drive down cost and maintenance effort of these applications, we needed to make sure that it is very easy to develop new apps and that these apps would always be able to meet the requirements of the time. In order to do that, we decided to limit the flexibility that you have. So Fiori Elements is designed to do one thing very well, which is render Fiori apps that follow the SAP Fiori design guidelines. These guidelines change as we've discussed, and so will Fiori Elements. But overall, the entire idea is that we are rendering these applications and you have less flexibility because you're tied to the specific floor plan, but you also don't have to actually go out of your way to make sure that your apps meet the floor plans. When we're talking about floor plans, we're not only talking about the general patterns that we're using for the floor plans, we're also talking about the overall look and feel of the applications. So you get colors, icons, fonts, you get page types that we'll be talking about later, but you also get behavioral changes that are already built into the apps. So you'll always find the main action at the same spot in the app. You'll always know how a table behaves. So it will be very easy for your users to adopt these applications. And we see a lot of benefits in these UX consistency standards that we're applying with Fiori Elements, because we ensure that these apps blend, that you create blend very well with the apps that SAP provides out of the box, and that you have a single or holistic user experience end-to-end for your processes. But you get more than just the behavior. You also get the enterprise class features. You get the navigation, you get features like flexible column layout, you get search capabilities, all your tables have filtering and sorting built into them. You have variant management to allow people to customize their applications for their own use. You have editing and draft management capabilities. So a lot of things that are a lot of effort for you to actually create if you build your apps out of the box. Fiori Elements actually has these features built in. But of course, I talked about all these apps and what they can bring, but it'd be great to actually get to see them. So let's go over to Germany for that. Katja?
Thank you. Since you guys have all been around the SAP ecosystem for a while, let me just run through this. This is a Fiori app that is built with Fiori Elements without a single line of code. It's an overview page. The small little tiny cards here, they can give you a nice overview about a certain business area. I can click on the header of a card and the system navigates me to one of the most popular floor plans we have in Fiori Elements, the so-called list report. And as Sebastian said, all the floor plans are coming with some built-in functionality. So you have automatically a filter bar, you can sort the entries in your table, and you don't have to implement a single line of code for this. So you can drill down from here to an object page. The object page is meant for showing details of a specific object. And also this page has some built-in functionality. So you can navigate between the sections, or technically the facets. And you can see that the header collapses automatically so that the whole space of the page is used. We are super proud that today 80% of the SAP Fiori apps are built with SAP Fiori Elements. So we are the framework that is used for implementing Fiori apps.
Katja did show you 3 of the main floor plans that we have in Fiori Elements. She showed you the overview page, the list report, and the object page. There's 2 more floor plans that we provide out of the box. One is the analytical list page, which is basically a table with analytical features on top. So you can actually drill down into your data visually, and the filter results adjust as you do so. We also have the work list, because in the enterprise, a lot of things are about getting work done. So we have a dedicated floor plan to allow you how to process work items. But we have this proud moments every now and then when somebody talks to us about what they're doing with Fiori Elements. So in one of those cases, we had a customer in our all hands meeting, and he actually talked about the fact that they are currently asked to create more and more overview pages because the stakeholders in their company really, really like the power that an overview page gives them. So when we're talking about creating apps, that's a perfect segue to showing you how that is done.
Oh yes, I can show you the SAP Fiori tools, the tools we are working on right now. And some of you are helping us with the beta because they are not yet released, but they will be released soon. Today I will show you how easy it is to create an SAP Fiori Elements app that is connected to an S/4HANA system. So let me open the command palette and select the Yeoman UI generator. I want to create a list report on an object page that shows a list of products. So I have to maintain an endpoint, authenticate myself. The main entity is already proposed. Each project has a name. And of course, each app has a title. And I want to have the app in the right folder, so. And I want to use a specific UI version for that. Now the app is generated. So all the metadata is loaded from the backend system. You can already see the corresponding UI5 folders are already created, and now we are creating the tool-specific folders on top. And the great thing is I don't have to do anything. I can immediately run the app. So I can execute the search. And I think you can see that this looks like dummy data. And that's the case. We are working with mock data. So you can keep going with your app development, even if the backend is not working. But now we owe you some more information about the SAP Business Application Studio and Microsoft Visual Studio Code.
True. We actually get that question a lot. SAP has now the SAP Business Application Studio as its next generation web IDE available in the market, which is a hosted environment that you can pre-configure with all the extensions that a customer will need to use to actually create, for example, Fiori apps. And it can be centrally administered, and you can provide this full set of features to your end users and run the IDE right in the browser. That is one option that you can use to run the Fiori tools. The other option is that you can use the Visual Studio Code extension that we'll be providing on the service marketplace. So you can actually download them directly from Microsoft's service marketplace, install them in your Visual Studio Code, maintain your own local development environment, and develop locally. So in the end, it's really up to you if you want to use our tools with the Business Application Studio or in Visual Studio Code. We provide you the ability to generate and tweak your apps on both platforms.
Tweaking an app is a great keyword. Let me show you what we can do with the SAP Fiori tools. So I would prefer usually to test my app with real data. So let me start the app, not in the mock server mode. I want to show you how easy it is to add additional filter fields. So let me open the service modeler. Let me select the right entity type. And here I get a list of all the annotations maintained in the backend. I want to add an additional selection field. So I copy the annotations into my local annotation file. And here I can simply use code completion and snippets to add, for example, the supplier field. So I can hit save. The preview gets refreshed. And now you can see that we have another filter field called supplier. And I can, of course, also navigate to the object page and add some more data to the technical data. So I open again. Service modeler. I select the entity type. This time we are talking about the UI field called technical data. I copy it to my local annotations. And now I can use code completion to add another attribute, let's say supplier. I hit save, the preview refreshes, and I have an additional field. As you can see, SAP Fiori elements and SAP Fiori tools make it really easy to implement a Fiori app.
Oh, wow. I think that was a lot to unpack. So what this shows you is that if you know what you're doing with Fiori elements, it's really easy to do it. But let's talk a little bit about what Katja actually did in this demo. So it started out with this URL that she put into the field, which was an OData URL. So OData is a protocol that sits on top of standard HTTP and defines how you exchange data with the backend. It allows you how to filter data, how to extract the information that you want to have. It also allows you to annotate data. If you annotate data, you provide metadata that describes how the data is to be interpreted. So for example, your response document in an HTTP request through an OData protocol might include a string. With annotations, you know that that string is not just a collection of characters, but is indeed an email address. So it will actually be able to convey to the framework that this set of characters is to be rendered as an email address. And then Fiori Elements does with it whatever the design standard for SAP Fiori apps requires for an email address. So we have that capability, and it is super cool that we have it. So because at runtime, when the app is rendered for the very first time, we read the metadata for the service, and we interpret it and we generate the app. The app is then cached in your browser. So the first load of a Fiori Elements app is sometimes a little bit slower, but subsequent loads are much, much faster because the app has already been generated and cached. But we generate it on the fly based on the data that you're creating. Now, of course, you saw that Katja created these annotations in a local annotations file. That is our recommended way to tweak annotations for your applications or add annotations on top of an existing service. But we can talk about that in a little while when we get a bit of an overview of how this looks architecturally. One thing to notice is that Katja pointed out specifically that she was creating this application on top of an OData v2 service. And she pointed that out specifically because there is a new version of the OData protocol out there, which is called OData v4. And that is something that SAP has decided to combine with a redesign of the Fiori Elements framework. So we're providing in the future a new version of the Fiori Elements floor plans specifically tailored for the OData v4 protocol. They will leverage the reduced payload size that you get, and specifically right now where everyone is working from home, I think people will really appreciate that we actually limit the amount of data we're sending back and forth. It also makes use of some of the enhanced filtering options, for example, that come with the OData v4 protocol. But we have a lot more features into that, and we'll talk about that later a little bit more because we really would like to get you excited to join our beta program in fall. But most importantly is not that you actually create these apps so far, but that we are now caught up with what Katja did. So Katja can actually see if she can throw something else at us. Do you have something else that we haven't seen yet, Katja?
Sure. How about adding an object page or an export to Excel functionality? Here you can see that we have a table on that nice object page, and it would be super nice if we could navigate to a further object page. We have a tool that is called Page Map. Let me open it. It visualizes the different pages of the app. And if I want to have a further object page, I simply click plus. I select the right association. Add this. And you can see that the preview is already refreshing. And now I have that small little tiny arrow that I can use to navigate to an additional object page. But also, whenever we are talking about lists, we want to have the possibility to download them into an Excel file. And if you don't know how to use this, you can simply open our guided development. You can search for Excel. You have a small chapter that describes what needs to be done, but you can also simply hit apply. Then the corresponding page file is opened, you can see that there is a new line, use export to Excel, save it, the preview refreshes, and you have the small, tiny export to Excel functionality. Now, Sebastian, can you put this into perspective for us?
Sure. How about we try with a little picture this time? So we already talked about the fact that you can use Fiori elements on top of SAP systems. So you can take an S/4HANA system or a BW system, for example. But Fiori elements also works on top of other backend systems. So we even have customers running this on top of SharePoint, for example. As long as you have an OData service provided by the system, you can actually use Fiori elements on top of that. We also have seen backend-driven annotations. So initially, when Katja copied these annotations over into our local annotations file, these were backend annotations. They came out straight out of the backend. That's why Katja didn't need to write any to get the app running in the first place. We ship Fiori elements with the SAP UI5 framework. So it is part of that, and it's available to anyone who uses or has SAP UI5. And then we have different options to configure your application. So here we can actually talk about the application configuration, which is what Katja did when she added that additional page to the application. Or you can use UI5 flexibility. That's the type of change she did when she introduced the export to Excel feature. In addition, we also have the ability for you to have these local annotations that you can generate right into your app, so they live and follow the lifecycle of your app instead of the lifecycle of your backend service. There's also the concept of extensions in this. Now, extensions allow you to write your own code and inject it in specific places in a Fiori Elements application. Now, one word of caution is that a lot of the support effort that we have on the SAP side is by people using this feature too heavily and then seeing performance implications from it. So if you use extensions, you will see that you actually own that code. And if the Fiori Elements framework shifts, we cannot guarantee that your extension will always follow that migration path as seamlessly as a standard Fiori Elements app without these extensions would. We also found that people sometimes end up fighting the floor plan and writing really complex extensions to make something work that is not necessarily required. And that this is something that I really ask you to do is, like, if you're looking at creating a Fiori Elements application, try to make sure that you are sure that the scenario you're trying to address is actually a Fiori Elements scenario. If it is not, you might be much better off creating a freestyle app to begin with. Or you can wait until we actually release our new version of the Fiori Elements framework for OData v4. There, we're actually talking about the flexible programming model as a new concept. This will allow you to inject freestyle pages, sections, or actions anywhere in your Fiori Elements application. So even if you start out with a floor plan and you then need to break out, we will actually allow you different places where you can extend your applications with much more flexibility. Of course, still the support effort for these applications will be on you, but we allow you to make it much easier to mix and switch between the Fiori Elements pure play applications and UI5 freestyle applications. That's what we call a flexible programming model. And we have this as part of our beta program in fall. So we would love for you to sign up for that program, and I'll have an email address for you. But let's see what it takes to actually get one of these apps into an SAP system. Back over to you, Katja.
All I need to do to publish an app to an on-premise system is I have to create a deployment configuration. And luckily, we have a CLI for this. So I have to call the CLI. It asks me for a package. Let's go for $10 for now. So I don't need a transport request, and I want to have the possibility to immediately start the app. Now you can see that there is a UI5 deploy YAML file. Let's cut some of the windows. I need some credentials for this. So let me copy my credentials. And let me set some environment variables. Let's save it and run the deployment. Now the app is deployed to the on-premise backend system. I can open the link. And now the app runs in the backend system. And if I hit go, I also get some nice pictures.
So wow, we went from creating an app to actually running it live in an S/4HANA system while we're also giving you a presentation. I think that goes to show that Katja really knows what she's doing, and that Fiori tools and Fiori elements are actually a pretty effective framework to move things along and make it much, much faster to create these apps. So if you leave your home office and go back to the living room to talk to somebody and they ask you what you've learned today, the important thing that you need to take away from the SAP online track and all its presentations is these super important 3 things. SAP Fiori Elements accelerates app development, and Katja has proven that to all of us. SAP Fiori Elements also enables UX consistency, because without any of her own doing, the application actually looked and behaved exactly like any other SAP provided SAP Fiori apps. And you also heard us both iterate the point that a lot of the applications that are created today in S/4HANA are created with Fiori Elements. So it's not a niche product, but it's a product that's provided all over the place. Now, we're actually providing you with a lot more information that you can find on Fiori Elements. We have a product page, we have different types of documentation, but we really hope that you sign up for our YouTube series and wait for us to announce our availability of the Fiori Elements tools, which is really already scheduled and on the books. So we're hoping to show that to you very, very soon.
And of course, we want to have you involved because we want that our products meet your requirements. So please join our beta program for SAP Fiori Elements for OData before and reach out to Peter. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to shoot us an email. We are always there to help. Thank you and be safe.